Hello, everybody. Ha! I almost forgot to turn on my microphone there. Hey, Pink Wolf, how you doing? Welcome to another fun day of editing motion capture. By the way, if the sound volume is too loud or too low for the music, just let me know. I'll turn it up or down. So what are we doing today? Today we're going to talk about c3d data. As I haven't really talked much about it. I think I've shown a little bit about it, but the question is how do you use c3d data? I kind of showed a few things like rigid bodies and that sort of thing, but how do you even get the c3d data onto your character? So I'll give you a quick history of motion capture, loosely speaking. At some point, we figured out how to take these markers and calculate where they're in space and associate. Then we need to figure out how to associate those markers with body parts. So we came up with a system inside of Motionbuilder which is called solving, where we take the marker data and we solve it to something like an actor. There are a lot of different tools out there in the industry. There's like, I don't know if it's still around, but PillSolve is one of them. But there's a lot of different tools inside of Maya, inside of Max. Lightwave had a version of it back in the day. But Motionbuilder uses something called an actor. So in this tutorial, we're going to create an actor. We're going to associate it with the c3d data. We're going to fine tune it, and we're going to retarget it onto a character. And I think I have almost all my files in place. I have to admit, I'm flying by the seat of my pants just a little bit because I didn't think about what I was going to do until like last minute, like an hour ago. I was like, what should I be doing? Oh yeah, let me do c3d data. So let's get started. So in past tutorials, I kind of mentioned the ROM, and that's kind of what I have here. Is I have a ROM of the c3d data of one of the characters. This is a game I worked on a long time ago. Come on, do some other things. There we go. I was doing some other things there, a little twisting. You can kind of see, the shape of the body as you watch. But the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get this on a character. So let's get this on an actor. So I'm going to create an actor, and Motionbuilder has these hot buttons up here. You can click it and say, boom, actor, boom, control rig, define skeleton. You all these little tools up here now. If you don't want to use that, you can come down here into your asset browser, and you can actually drag an actor into your scene, and it will create it. But we'll just go ahead and we'll create that up here. So there's the actor. And it's just a human. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to talk about things that you can show and hide. Right now we're looking at everything, but or we can also look at pivot points as well. These are all very important for when you're getting ready to line your actor up with your c3d data. So you got some pivots, marker sets. I haven't associated any marker sets yet with this character, but you can show and hide that. Skeleton, I can show or hide the skeleton. I like showing the skeleton when I'm at least doing the initial setup of an actor. This is another reason why we start in T-pose, is it usually helps us define the body parts easily. Now I'm going to have to disclaimer here. It has been a very long time since I've set up an actor. I'm going to try not to screw this up. We use skeletal data now, where the program automatically solves to a skeleton, and then all we have to do is retarget. So it's capture, clean, export, in this case to c3d data, solve it to an actor, retarget the actor to your game character. That's kind of the steps. And that's how it used to be for the longest time. And then in the past 5, 10 years, I would say, maybe 11, the solving happened when exporting from your whichever DCC you're using. If you're using an OptiTrack system, it'd be Motive. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my actor, I'm going to select it. Now I can do this by holding down the space bar and right-clicking on the hips. Now we'll select everything, and then the trick is, I believe it's Shift. Hold down Shift and unselect the hips, and then hold down Shift again and reselect the hips, and it's going to move your main pivot to the hips. It's Motionbuilder puts your little gizmo on whatever the last object is that you've selected. So in this case, it would be the hips. And now it's time to just kind of move this character into place, this actor, get the actor kind of scaled up. He's pretty darn close to the scale of our actual actor. So things that are going to help you whenever you do this is reference. Let me open up my reference real fast. All right, so I showed these pictures in the past, but here is an actor wearing a mocap suit. So all these markers associate with the c3d data. Here's another one of our actors that we use. So you can kind of see where they are in relation to the body. This is important when we go in and we start setting up, setting all this up, because I need to get his hips, the actor's hips, aligned approximately where the markers were at on stage. I'm just going to start moving him around. I'm going to start scaling things. I'm going to try to match his character the best I can. This was shot on a Vicon system using Blade, and they had a very specific marker layout. I kind of remember it. So the knees, for example, these markers are on either side of the kneecap. So this is kind of a very long and tedious process. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as I can. Remember, if you click and drag, left click and drag, you big movements. If you right click and drag, much smaller movements, and that's going to help you. So there are certain things we can do as well. We can turn on symmetry. So Motionbuilder did this cool function where you can actually tear things off and move them around. So things like symmetry edit, locking IK, that sort of stuff for your actor as you go through, you can makes it easier to manipulate. So for example, if I'm going to need to scale his legs. There we go. Down because his knees aren't quite in the right place. Actor had slightly longer. You can see I'm actually scaling both legs at the same time. One of the things that you have to think about is how people stand, and just the natural way the body kind of like positions itself, because there's a very comfortable way for us to posture ourselves when we stand in, you know, T-pose or stand around. In this case, you can see his feet are actually out. Typically, when I know I'm going to use c3d data, I try to have them a little, when they do the T-pose, I try to have them a little more squared up. Yeah, but I'll want to do things. I'll want to rotate. I want to try to make this actor fit. So this marker right here lines up with the ankle. There's the ankle. So my goal is to try to get that ankle to be there. Now, I don't have IK manipulation on, but I can actually come in here onto IK manipulate, and you can see here it's actually turned on pinning, so I can pin and unpin things, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I should be able to just grab his leg and kind of start putting it into place. I'll show you what happens if you don't have IK manipulation on here in a second. Because IK manipulation's on, his foot is kind of locked into place, which is good. So other things that you kind of want to do is you kind of want to fill this out. Like you want to scale your actors' body parts as if they're wearing the shoes or the boots or the whatever. So typically, in a production environment, you'd probably want to allow yourself like a full day, sometimes even more than a full day, to kind of get this initial solve working really well. A little bit of time, extra time on the front end will save you a tremendous amount of time on the back end. So hitting Control A will actually toggle you between the 3 different X-ray modes. So if you're getting annoyed with seeing the skeleton, you can toggle that off and just see the pivot points, which is kind of nice. So certain things that I'm aware of is that marker right there, which is on the very back of the heel, is usually right on the very back of the heel. So that's what I'm trying to match up. I'm trying to match up between the tip, the ball of the feet, and the back of the heel. Also keeping in mind that ankle marker. Now I think his legs are probably a little too bent. Maybe a little bit too long. So I'll try to keep my eye on chat. If anybody has any anything they want to ask while I'm doing this, feel free. I'll try to look over and see what people are asking. By the way, I have a new little chat thing down here, so hopefully when this thing ends up on YouTube, people can see kind of what questions have been asked. Seems about right. one of the tricks is to kind of like I was saying, you want to scale things. I probably should have started with the hips first. Usually want to start with the core and work your way out. Oh yeah, C3, something you delved into by accident. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, hopefully you could go back later and watch this and start playing with some C3D data. I know a few mocap guys in the industry who are like, I only use C3D data. I don't use anything. I don't use skeleton. I don't, BVH. I don't use any of that stuff. I only use C3D data because they really like the type of control that you get. So you can do things like break joints as well. Like, for example, it feels like his leg is supposed to come down here like that and then kind of come over. You could, but I kind of try not to do that if possible. I think his foot is probably not in the right spot. So I'll just kind of move that, re-angle it until it feels like it's in a better spot. So yeah, scaling helps. So I'll just kind of thicken up the thighs a little bit. I'll thicken up the calves. I scaled the feet to kind of give the feeling that he's wearing some shoes. So a lot of these joints are important. Where you put them, because it's going to directly affect your character once you start retargeting. All right, so I think I got that. Now let's work our way up to the chest. Sometimes you'll have a character with like a very like archy back, like a gymnast. When they stand, it's almost like they got this big swoop, like their back kind of comes down and swoops out. So that'll be something to think about when you're posturing the actor to fit. So I notice by moving this, the hips are actually moving. So I'm going to come in here to the hips. I'm going to pin those because I don't want the hips to move when I move another part of the body. When I worked on Rage, we shot our mocap. We solved everything in Blade. And then C3D data was delivered to me, so I did everything on that game in C3D data. In fact, I believe everything that game, they use C3D data because that was kind of their workflow. So something to talk about. So remember I said IK, because I got IK turned on. If I grab the neck and move it around, it kind of moves everything. I'll have to come in here and turn off IK. And then I can move the neck freely and kind of position it a little bit better. And then when I'm ready, I can turn it back on. Erg, turn IK off. Adjust the neck, there we go. This is also where it really helps to have a reference, like a video reference, to kind of see how your actor's standing, because if they're standing and their head is kind of crooked, you want to be able to see that in your pose so that you can adjust the head accordingly. Like maybe they're looking off to the side at whoever the director is who's getting ready to talk to them or give them their instructions. We try to usually say, look straight ahead, but sometimes it doesn't happen, or maybe their hat gets crooked because the markers are on the hat. C3D directly into the game engine? I don't think I've ever seen C3D data go directly into a game engine. I have, like on our game Star Citizen, the CryEngine supports input from motion capture systems. So it has its own kind of code to say this joint drives in your mocap software drives this joint in game. And it's not usually a very good solve. At least I've never experienced a really good solve because we don't work with one-to-one characters, character to actors. But we can drive, and I know you can do it in Unreal. I think you can do it in Unity. But yeah, you can directly feed motion capture right into your game if you want to. And a lot of, like I know we do it, a lot of game companies and movie companies will do that to help previs. I'm gonna guess that his head is straight. All right, so here come the clavicles. I have a feeling that his shoulders are actually rotated up pretty high. Gotta turn IK manipulation off. Might actually have to raise these up a little bit. Oh, raise them both up at the same time. So, kind of talking about posturing of characters. So here's where you can get into a tricky area, which is the arms, because they're actually very complex. They're not just a hinge here, but you have forearm twist here, and hand rotation. And I know that the data has the markers on the outside of the elbow. Now, let me see if I can switch to my my camera real fast. To kind of give an example. So when a person stands, typically their elbows don't point. They don't point directly backwards. What happens is the elbow naturally wants to tilt down like this. So you go up to anybody and say, hey, stand in T-pose for me, and look at their elbows, and you'll see their elbows aren't pointing straight behind them. They're actually pointing at an angle down to the ground. Like that. So this the side of my elbow is like here and kind of back here. And a lot of times we'll try to get our actors to kind of correct and get them to kind of try to adjust their hands out straight or their elbows out straight. But usually it becomes more trouble than it's worth, and we just let them do what they need to do. There we go. So that being said, I got to keep that in mind when as I'm starting to position these arms. Same is true when it comes to doing this on a skeleton that's been solved right out of the mocap package. One of the things I like to do is I like to put a little bend in the elbow at first, and that just kind of helps me know where the 90-degree bend is. So I don't want to do this. I want to try to avoid breaking the elbow. Sometimes it can't be helped, but I try to avoid it the best I can. I try to fit the markers the best I can. So yes, fitting the markers higher priority than not breaking joints. I try to fit the limbs into the markers as closely as possible. If I have to break a joint, I'll go ahead and I'll break a joint, but it's just something I try not to do, if that makes sense. I'm gonna scale these shoulders up like that, and that's gonna help fill in that space between those markers. Shoulders may be up a little too high now that I'm working on the arm, so I'll just grab those and drop them down a bit. In fact, I wonder what happens if I pull this in. I wonder if I can do that and it not look bad. One of the things I really like is I like experimenting. I like to experiment with, stuff and see how it works. So let's try an experiment. Let's pull these clavicles in so that the pivot is maybe a little bit closer. Again, I have no idea if this is going to work. Let's just experiment. Pull them in, and then I'll push it out like that. See, yeah, shoulders are always too up on most mocap, I see. So the problem with high shoulders in motion capture is really simple, and it has to do with characterization of the character and the characterization of the motion capture data. I'm using c3d data, so I'm trying to fit this actor to the natural pose of a character, or the actor who's on stage. So when you start to raise your arm, let me transition. There we go. So when you raise your arm to the side, my arm can only go so high. At some point, I can no longer lift my arm up. What's going to happen is my clavicle is going to take over, and it's going to raise up with my arm. So my clavicle, which if I here's the collarbone, here's the other part of my collarbone. So as I raise up, you can see everything here is lifting and raising. So as an actor stands, these are actually they're gonna move up naturally, right? But the problem is a lot of characters when they T-pose them, they don't think about that in the model or the rigging. So what happens is you get a clavicle that's coming down, but it kind of comes out really straight. It feels broken and it feels very artificial. It's an artificial pose. So what we do is we typically, at least when I'm getting a character ready for characterization and prepping for animators to use, and you can see this in some of my earlier tutorials, I'll take those clavicles and I'll actually raise them up. There was a number given to me by a guy named Crispin, who's like an industry guru, and he gave me the number of about between 15 and 25 degrees. It's going to vary depending on your actor, but usually you want to lift up about that, roughly around that height, and you kind of want to keep it consistent across the board between your actor, between your game character or cinematic character, the characterization of your motion capture data, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to match the actor on stage, right? Oh, and this is always challenging and slow going, this part right here. This guy had relatively long arms, it seems like. Again, I know that these wrist markers are on either side of the wrist, so that's where I'm trying to get this pivot point right there. Let me this wrist pivot point right there. I'm trying to get that in between those two markers. Let's turn on a little IK manipulation there. So I was showing you kind of the slow way. Now I'm kind of going to do it the fast way with IK manipulation. I guess I was doing it the slow way because inside of Motive, when I'm calibrating a skeleton before a mocap shoot, I have to go in and manually by FK rotate everything into place, and can be very time consuming and slow, and it's something you have to do really fast. So you try to do the best job you can in the limited amount of time you do it. I wish there was IK manipulation in that program. So what I think is very interesting, I don't know what they did here because I wasn't privy to their part of the pipeline at Modus Digital, which is where this data came from. But I know we did not have 6 markers or 9. I guess it'd be 9 markers for these fingers. We only had 1 marker on the tip of the, kind of right about here on the thumb, the pinky, and the index. So I don't know what they did to generate these other 2 boxes. So the c3d data, the data that we're looking at was shot at a company called Modus Digital, which is up in Dallas, Texas. And I was working on a game called Starhawk for the PlayStation 3. And that's kind of where all this data came from. I'm going to save right here just in case I screw something up. Save. All right. So when this data actually starts driving this actor, the index finger and the pinky finger are actually going to interpolate the middle finger and the ring finger. So what you'll get is, if I can do this, you'll get if the index comes down like so, you'll kind of get that kind of data. Like you'll never get a point like this. You'll get a point like this, if that makes sense. All right. Off to the other side. I'll do this a little bit quicker. I came in it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin his hand. And I like to pin things as I go. Like, I don't want his chest to get knocked out of whack. So I'll pin his chest. So here's a slightly speedier way of doing it. So I showed you the slow way. Now here's the slightly quicker way. Whoa, haha. Oh, buggy motion builder. Actors have always been a bit buggy. There we go. I feel like his left arm is actually a bit longer than his right arm, which is totally possible. There was a break right there, breaking the elbow just a bit. All right, I'm gonna save it right there, and it's time to. I think I'm good. I think for demo purposes, I think we're at a good stopping point for trying to get this actor to fit this data. So the next thing I need to do is I need to map all the marker data to the actor. Pull this up. You've got, normally I use a tablet, but I think I might switch over to mouse for this. So under the actor settings, this is where we're going to do this. So I'm going to create a marker set. And I'm going to start dragging things into here. Now, unless something has changed in the last couple of versions of Motionbuilder, you're limited to, I believe, 5 markers per area. So, for example, the hips actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They actually have 6. So I won't be able to get all the markers for the hips into here. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to see if it works. So I'm going to select them. I'm going to hold down X, click anywhere in an available spot. I'm going to drag it. Oh, hold on. Let me select a marker here. All right, here we go. Should be able to just drag and drop it, but it's not letting me drag and drop it. Why is it not letting me drag and drop it? Unless something has changed. Okay, well, in past versions of Motionbuilder, you're able to just select markers and literally drag them right over this, and it just works. Why are you not working? I wonder if I have to add the markers first. Let's find out. Oh, you know, I wonder if it's because I had 6 markers selected instead of just 5. I'm going to delete this and start over. All right. Create a marker set. Done. This time I'm going to grab 4. Oh, there it is. That's what the problem is. So before, I guess it let you and it just wouldn't include one of the markers, but this time it goes up. Sorry, you can't do it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do these other 2. So those 3 on the back. 3, 4, 5. I should be able to do 5. Yes, I can do 5. Can't do 6. I can't do more than 5, but I can do 5. You can see they actually turn white, saying, "Hey, I'm attached to something." So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 for the head. So I think what I need to do is I need to hide the actor skeleton because that's kind of getting in the way now. And pivot points. There we go. So now it's becoming a drag and drop thing. And I'm trying to remember if I'm able to drag that into one or not. I'm going to say not. there. Four for that hand. Hope I'm putting this on. Hope I'm putting these on the right nodes. It's been a while. You know, if it doesn't work, then I'll hit save and try it again. So let's see, knees. It's like that goes on the shin, if I'm not mistaken. All right, switch over to fingers. Wait, did I get the right hand? That was the wrong hand. It goes over here. So if you do a lot of this, you can actually create marker sets and then just load them on, and then it'll automatically load in, which is very helpful. All right, save and get ready to activate. So I'm trying to remember. I want to say that when you activate, you actually want to click the snap button. And you're going to see everything kind of shift and adjust here. So we recalculate TNR. We want that. And you saw it kind of go peek, a little bit of an adjustment there, like that. All right, I'm nervous. Let's see what happens when we play it. Play, and he's kind of moving around. Looks like he's doing his thing. All right, let's watch him do this range of motion. Nod his head, saying, "Yeah, I know what I'm doing." Do this little motion. Crazy head. Oh. All right, so we're not done yet. We're close, but we're not done just yet. So if you notice, his fingers they're doing this. These two fingers are static because there's nothing driving them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get those driven. Just going to scrub to a part of the range of the motion where it looks like his fingers are doing something interesting. There we go, right there. That should be a good test. All right. So I believe it's right here under finger properties. It's left hand, so I'm looking over here. Nope, that's not it. Turn off human finger limits. I could have sworn it's here, but I could be completely wrong. They could have moved it someplace else. Let's go check our... Where would it be? No, it's got to be this. Finger properties. There it goes. So I've got the index partially driving that middle finger. And middle, so that's middle pinky. Nope, middle ring. I want to do the ring, ring index, ring pinky. So this is where you go in and you would start playing with the settings to try to get that nice to drive everything. And that's part of the reason why you use a range of motion, because you want characters to kind of do something like this and make a fist. So that helps you figure all this stuff out. All right, let's see how this looks. Almost. There we go. Now all the fingers are kind of moving how they should. let's go do the same thing to the other hand. So I kind of figured this out. Again, I'm refreshing my my memory on how to do this as well. So if I can explain it. So this is what's driving the solving of the index finger. These three controls right here. So right now the index finger is being driven 100% by the index finger, which is being driven by the markers. But I don't want any influence between the middle. Like if I start playing around with the middle, you can see it's trying to blend up to match where the middle finger is out. I don't want that. I want to ignore the index finger in this case because it has mocap data driving it. So what I want to do is I want to go to the middle finger, and I want to say right now 0% of the index is driving the middle finger. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say 50%-ish. You know, roughly. I guess you could type in the number if you really wanted to. So 50%, but I want 0% of the middle finger controlling it. And the ring, probably 0% pinky, about 50% as well. Now I'll go to the middle. See the ring, I'm sorry, not the middle, the ring. Ring index, I guess about 50%. Zero, ring, 0, ring pinky, about 50%. And again, depending on your mocap data, you can come in here and you can actually start playing with things, right, to get it to feel right. All right, I'm just going to save that right there. Now it's time to pull in a character. So let's go see if I can find a character. I have to admit that was the one asset I forgot to drag into this tutorial file. So let me do that. Let me go find one. Merge. I know I have one in a past tutorial. Oh gosh, hand key basics. I can probably pull in the one from last week's tutorial. I'll try that. So what do I not need from that? I don't need animation. I want everything else. And go ahead and merge. Now, I made a very big mistake. I'm getting ready to tell you what that mistake is, so hopefully none of us make this mistake in the past. I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. Let me hide that jet bike because we do not need it. Does anybody see the problem here? 50 points to the person who can guess what the problem is. Any guesses? Bueller? Bueller? You're talking about this this guy right here? Let me see. Actor, character. That guy? No, it's not because my character's in T-pose. Anybody else have a guess what the mistake was? I don't know if I can fix it the way it should be fixed without redoing everything I just did. Three, 2, 1, bam. The mistake was I did not scale my mocap data down to match my game character size. Ta-da! That was my mistake. Typically, I think it's best to actually scale the mocap data to the size of your character, whether it means scaling the mocap data down or scaling the mocap data up. The game engine and the scale for that, where this game character came from, is very different compared to like everything else I've ever worked on. So when the characters come in, they come in really tiny. I've had characters come in from games in the past where they're like literally like this big, like itty bitty tiny characters, and it sucks. That I would say in that case, if they're like itty bitty tiny characters, it's probably better to actually scale the game character up on using a top node, and it's really easy to do. And you just have to account for it whenever you're creating your pipeline to get animation into and out of Motionbuilder. And I want to say this character was set up that way. Let me go to T-pose here and split my screen. Control 2 to split screens. I don't think I can scale my optical data down because of the actor. Yeah, see, he kind of gets all weird and fat and silly. It's not like skeletal data when you pull skeletal data out of a mocap package. So I am going to have to scale my character up. And believe it or not, there's a reason why this says no key on this node right here. And it's because when this game character was created, I knew that I had to scale these characters up for whatever reason, because I needed to match the scale in Motionbuilder for various reasons. But I think when I recharacterized this guy, it scaled it down. So how can I fix this problem? Well, I could do this. Character definition. Go to my character. Uncharacterize him. Take him. Scale him up to match. Relatively close. Recharacterize. That's cool. It kind of gave me a warning about scaling. That's kind of cool. I like that. All right. Now let's see this in action. Character, stance. So normally you see when I do a retarget, I hit character, or, because there's another characterized motion capture skeleton in my scene. But in this case, I'm going to actually go to actor. Click activate. And there he goes. Now my character is being driven by the c3d data. So I'm not done yet, but we are getting much, much closer. So to kind of recap what had happened. So we go to a mocap stage, we capture data, and it's delivered to us in a c3d format. It's very important that when we have data delivered to us that they include the range of motion, because we're going to be using the range of motion to be doing all of our solving. And this is true whether we're doing c3d data or skeletal data. You must have it's a really good idea to have the motion to have the range of motion, the ROM files. Is what we usually call it. So the data was delivered to us, the ROM, all the animation that we asked for and paid for, and we've taken the c3d data and we have built an actor. We've aligned the actor up with the marker data as closely as possible, and then we have mapped all the marker data to the actor, adjusted the fingers so that you get good finger data, and then we pulled in our game character, made sure everything was to scale. which is what I should have done from the very beginning. And then we retarget our character to the actor using an input type actor. So now it's time to go through and start playing with the settings to kind of get a really good retarget. So one of the things I want to note is when he walks forward, and again, whenever I do a range of motion, I try to have the actor actually walk around in a circle or walk the volume a little bit. They don't have to do a lot, but it's really helps. I'll show you why. Notice when he walks forward here, can you see how the actor is actually walking away from him? And it's because the actor has longer legs than our game character. So the distance traveled is actually going to be farther. So I want to fix that. And you can do that down here under retargeting by saying match source. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do this. Let me go right here. I can actually do it manually by hand by dragging this action space compensation one way or the other. Like so. And he'll closely match. Or what I can do is I can actually click just match source, and it will force my game character to be exactly where the mocap data is. All right, so little things I like to do. I've kind of gone over this in past tutorials. Grab the feet, and I turn IK pull on to 100%, and this is going to ensure that my feet follow the actor 100%. So I like to, when I'm working, let me turn that off. I like to hide the actor's body, and I like to have the mocap data on. Looks like his weapon mount is still constrained to a weapon that's in the file. I'll just hide that. Properties. So if you don't want a link to be drawn to your skeleton, you can go to skeleton settings, turn off show parent link, and it will turn that off, and then you can just turn off visibility of that joint. You won't see it. Just kind of a nice way to clean up a skeleton. So if you have a skeleton with lots of little bits and bobs, pieces all over the place, sometimes the character will look like a porcupine with all these joints everywhere. You don't want to see those. You can actually select all those joints, turn off the show parent link, which will turn off the line that's drawn, or that bone that's drawn, and then you just turn them invisible, and then you don't see them. That's just kind of a nice way to clean up your scene. But I like seeing the marker data because I like to see how well my character follows the marker data. Marker data is always about as close to 100% accurate as possible. I mean, skeletal data can be slightly off, the retarget can be slightly off, actor can be slightly off. But if that marker is right here, on the shoulder, I know that as long as I keep my character's shoulder inside there, inside those markers, I know I'm doing a good job. Let's see. So I'm probably going to take these knees. I'm going to turn up these knees a little bit. Looks like his feet are sinking into the ground just a smidge. So I'm going to go to offsets, mass center compensation. I've noticed turning down mass center compensation usually helps a lot and helps keep your actor locked to what the actual actor is not doing. This is very helpful when you're doing a human to a human. The times that you probably don't want mass center compensation is if you're doing like a human performer to a creature. You probably want some of that flexibility. Flexibility in the retarget. All right. All right, so the next thing I look at is ankle height. So there's it automatically puts an offset in there on auto mode. The offset it gave us is a number of 5.02, so I'm going to remember that. So I'm going to switch it over to user, which is going to zero it out. You can see it actually dropped his feet through the floor because it's trying to take our character's ankles and match them to the mocap ankle height, which is right there on that marker. So if you remember when I was lining everything up, I tried to make sure that that joint was right where our stage performer actor, his ankle was. So I'm just going to pull that back up to about 5.02 and play with it. I think it needed to go up a little bit. Maybe 5.3. I'm going to do the same thing with spacing. So I don't know if they fixed it in 2019. I know in 2018 it's a bug. When you go, you can do all your settings, and if you leave these on auto and you've saved your file and you come back the next day to do all your retargeting, when you process your data, sometimes it will take all your auto values, which is like, well, in this case, negative 3.95 for the hips, and it will zero it out. And then you'll be like, why does my data look bad? It's because of this bug and zeroing things out for some strange reason. So I like to take everything, and I like to, at least in here, I like to switch it over to user. Whoa, let's go back to auto. Negative 0.95. Woo. There we go. I think it was a good value. I just wanted to switch it over to user. Hips are next. Negative 3.95. This can be a tough one to get right, because what you want to do is you kind of want to pull those hips up without causing the legs to do some horrible IK or pull the feet up off the ground. I've turned pull onto the feet, so it shouldn't pull the feet up off the ground. There's some certain moves I have my guys do whenever they do a range of motion. One is to squat down and touch the floor, and the other one is to stand up, then straight over and touch your toes. I've noticed those two poses that I can put an actor in add a lot to the final retarget. Except I don't know if he does that here. He does this. He does kind of a squat thing, but anywho. I think I'm going to take his chest. I'm going to turn his chest up to 100%. That should help keep his chest on the markers. Look how crazy his knees look. So something that was not really thought about were correct lengths on legs, which is not that big of a deal because it's a game character, right? It's stylized, but these are things that are very important to take into consideration when you design a character, because when he bends down, look at what his legs do. The mocap is trying to get them into place, but because his shins are so long and his thighs are so short in comparison, they just kind of fold up kind of weird. And as an animator, this is something you're going to have to think about when you're delivered a character like this that has something off. So head and hands, it's always okay to have the rotation turned up to 100%. Now it's kind of a fine balancing act between elbows and hands on pull to try to get him to reach his target without causing his elbows to hyperextend. So again, this would probably be something that when I say I would spend a full day getting a character good, I would probably sometimes, if something's not working, let's say his arms weren't working very well, I would probably go all the way back to the beginning and try to fix the arms and then rework all the way back to this point in the process. So hold on, what else? Solving, shoulder solving, realistic shoulder solving. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust some of that. Make his shoulders feel a little more natural. Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, for doing this and how long I've been working on this, started at 8-ish, an hour and a half. Playing around with this for about an hour and a half, talking while I'm doing it. It's not too bad. Hindsight being 2020, I should have stopped. Like if I was at work, I would have, when I realized the scale was not correct, I would have stopped. I would have fixed the scale, and so on and so forth. But something else I want to show as well is you can do minor tweaks to the actor, even though we have a character being retargeted. Let me show you how that works. First, I have to re-show the actor's body. I don't know, I feel like overall this is a pretty decent solve. It's a pretty decent retarget for what it is. But sometimes you're like, you know, I messed up on the shoulder, I messed up on something. So let me save this here in case I mess something up. You can go back to the actual actor itself. I don't have it locked. If you had clicked the lock tab right down here, you would not be able to manipulate it beyond what it already is. But let's say, for example, let's say the head was off. For some reason, the actor's not looking straight forward. And you're like, oh no, I need to straighten his head up. You can actually come in here, select the actor's head, and do small adjustments. and it'll fix itself. And shoulders, like I said, shoulders is a good example. If I select, where is it? It doesn't let me select in there. Let's say the shoulder was a problem. I needed to adjust it. I can still come in here and further adjust it, and it would update like that. And that's just kind of a nice way to kind of help fine tune your solving and your retarget. Once you're happy and the director's happy and you've tested it on some animations, it's time to go through and actually start processing your data, right? So let me stop this here, and I'll leave the actor on so we can see it with the marker data. You're going to do a motion file import. So I'm going to go File, Motion File Import, go to wherever your mocap data is, select one or more of the data you want to import, merge, settings look good, default. If you have, let's say, a weapon, marker data that has a weapon in it, and you want to bring that in, or a prop, or something that has also been markered in your mocap scene, you can actually click on Create Unmatched Nodes, and it will pull that marker data in with whatever the animation is. I don't have any of that here, but that is something that you can do. Typically, when you're creating the master retarget file, you want to make sure that those are included as well. And before I pull this in, let me show you. I actually have weapon data in here, because this originally got pulled in. If I unhide this, you can see right here was one of our rifles, and there's no animation on it because there wasn't a prop during the shooting of this range of motion. But the data would come on and be placed onto that, and then you can create a rigid body and constrain your prop rig to it, and then animate that way. But I'll just go ahead and hide all that. And motion file import. Yeah, everything looks good. Sort that. Yeah. Import. All right, so imported data. Don't remember what he's saying. He's like, I need your help now. I've got some stuff to do. Did you see that over there? I have no idea what he's saying. I can't remember. But here's all the different data. So here's some guy working. And this guy's got a data pad. I'm going to go ahead and hide that actor now. And when you're happy, then it's time to plot everything down. So I'm going to select your character. And then you're going to plot the skeleton. All takes. So these are some of the settings I like to have on mine. All takes basically means it's going to go right down the list. Every take you have, it's going to plot. If you look down here, we're actually running at 60 frames a second. I've got this set to 30. I'm just going to switch this over to 30 frames, because that's game. game speed. Plot all takes, 30 frames a second. My rotation filter is set to unroll. There's gimbal killer, but typically I find unroll works the best. Do not need constant key reducer. So if let's say, for example, the foot comes down and plants on the ground, holds it for a few seconds or a few frames, and then lifts up and steps away, what's going to happen is once it hits the ground and it seems like that's stopped moving, it will kill any keys until it actually starts moving again. And while it seems like it's a good idea, a lot of times it's not, because you can, as you get into motion editing that animation, not having keys in those spaces could actually cause you a lot of problems, especially if you need to add like a smooth filter to your feet. Now all of a sudden your feet become mushy and they're floating above the ground. So just food for thought. Constant key reducer, leave it clicked off. Plot extensions, so that's important. These things are grayed out because of things. Plotting extensions, so things like props or extra joints that you've added to your character, that you've created character extensions for, it will key those and essentially bake those down. So usually you want to have that on. Typically I don't plot locked properties. Plot translation on root only, that's kind of important. You don't want to plot translation on all your joints because that can introduce problems later that are really difficult to fix. Plot, yeah, that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit plot. Work its magic. Done. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to plot to control rig. All takes. Same thing on 30 frames, unroll, constant key reducer is turned off. Don't want smart plot. Smart plot is kind of similar to constant key reducer, except it will see a curve and say, oh look, this curve does this. I'm going to cut the keys in the middle and just let a spline, take over. Let the smooth curve filter take whatever, the smooth tangents take over, and we really don't want that. Yeah, extensions, yeah, everything looks good. So plot. I had a little tiny control rig pop up, but because I scaled him up, the control rig will automatically scale up and fit with him. There we go. Now we have a full animation, or several animations now that are ready to hand off to an animator to start editing. So anyways, does anybody have any questions? This is probably a good Q&A time now if anybody has questions. Bueller. Well, while people think about questions, something I want to take into a note is the neck. And remember how kind of weird it looked? Hey, no problem. Is it Kino? Unko? Am I saying your name correct? Yeah, so it's my pleasure. I really enjoy doing these. So I hope to keep these coming. It's an interesting story. We got a new cinematic animator at work, and I got a message from him saying, "Hey, I'm so and so and new here and everything." And apparently, before he took the job at CIG, he was brushing up on motion capture and what have you, and he came across my tutorials. I don't know if it was on Twitch or on YouTube, and so he got to work. He did all this research to learn and get up to speed, and then he started working, and he came across I think they called it Reverse the Verse, but now it's called Inside Star Citizen, and he saw me on that doing this, and he's like, oh my gosh, it wasn't until I saw that I put two and two together and realized that you work here at CIG. And yeah, he's very excited and very appreciative of everything I put out there, and it makes me feel really good to know that people out there are getting some benefit from my years of experience. It's really nice. So I am going to try to keep these coming the best I can, and yeah. Oh yeah, back to neck fixes. So neck fix. So he's got a weird neck. And it's a motion capture thing, and it doesn't matter how you've solved. I always seem to run into this issue regardless. And it's just the way it solves to the head. So the way you can fix this is, let me open up a couple of things here. Let me open up my F-curve editor. I'm going to come in here to his neck and head. And there's the curves for his neck and head. So what I want to do is I want to come in here and actually want to zero all that out. And it's going to straighten up his head. It's going to make his head look really stiff. But I only zeroed it out on the FK. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to the actual head itself, and I'm going to turn on rotation. And what that's going to do is that's going to procedurally drive the neck and head, as opposed to having this weird funky shape to it. And usually you get a better outcome from it. The one thing you kind of lose is sometimes people will do this with their head. They can kind of do that, kind of like translate back side to side and back and forth like this. So you kind of have to be aware of that. Look at your data, analyze it before you start working on it, and ask yourself, is it better for me to go in and actually do the neck fix and then and if I need to add this kind of stuff back into it? Or is it better to just leave it as is and just kind of like do a little, motion edit the neck to feel right when he's like bending his head around and looking around? Let's look at his control rig. So this guy's got 2 joints in his neck. That's just something to be aware of whenever you're motion editing. A lot of times in games they'll have a neck, a single joint for the neck, and then the head joint. And it's kind of an interesting way of just trying to... It's got its own pros and cons as well. Now my neck's stiff just thinking about it. All right, well, I don't know. I guess that might be it for this stream. I guess I'll, by the way, if people are interested, you can click on, go find me on Discord. Click on the little Discord down below in my Twitch channel. And I'll try to post things as things come up. Also, Discord is a great place. There's Discord. If you have an idea and you want to leave feedback or what do you think can be better? What can I do that's better? That'd be great. If you have an idea of something you want to see, go ahead and post it here, and I'll read it and I'll try to do it. So I guess that being said, where is it? I guess I will call this a wrap, and I will hopefully see you guys and gals next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.